Hey there, Jordan Sheridan, Status Coup in the house. And I am chomping at the bit. I'm back from Seattle, where we just were reporting on Amazon's, I'd say, demolition of Seattle. If you live in Seattle and you're watching, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Same for you, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and a lot of other cities around America. So I'm going to talk about our reporting in Seattle a little bit later. Those videos are up right now. I had the honor of interviewing Seattle City Council member Shama Sawant, who's a socialist champion and has been fighting Jeff Bezos and Amazon's greed, which has essentially created, a tale of two cities in Seattle. You literally have homeless encampments sprinkled into new gentrified neighborhoods. It's really unseemly, and it really shows the priorities, because the Seattle government, the city government, the mayor, the state politicians are all bought off by Amazon anyway, which is why the whole city is essentially one big bow. Let's bow to Jeff Bezos and Amazon. So more on that later. We also did some reporting in Canada, so we're going to be posting those videos as we go. Remember, this is not live because YouTube has banned Status Coup from live streaming until the end of May. So that loss of revenue, it hurts. So you could still, because this is a premiere, so I'm recording it earlier, but you do have the live chat function. So if you like our reporting, if you want to support us in the field in Seattle and in other places, obviously we've been to Flint many times, recently Seattle, recently Detroit, Cleveland, and all the stories we're doing, make sure you keep supporting us through Super Chat. This is a Super Chat, and GoFundMe, which we're going to talk about in a bit. So, also, you have a checklist. Smash the like button. Smash it like it's Joe Biden playing identity politics. Smash it like it's CNN putting out a fake poll to make it seem like Bernie Sanders is falling off a cliff popularity-wise. Smash it like it's Kamala Harris telling you she's for the people. Smash it like it's Donald Trump showing up to your prom. Smash it like your life depends on it, because it does. The more people that press that like button, the more people that see our live stream. Membership is how Status Coup grows. And to keep it real, folks, because I always do, we're not where we need to be. We were just in Seattle for a few days covering important stories. We got four new members. So I ain't blaming you, folks. But I'm telling you, if you want Status Coup to grow, if you want us out in the field, if you want us covering these really, really important stories, both on the campaign trail and elsewhere, statuscoup.com/join, become a member. You could do it for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Is real independent journalism worth $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, or $147 a year? It is to me. It is to me. And more importantly, the more members we have, the more income we have, the more we can go out and get that larger funding from not douchey, plutocratic means, but from actual individuals that believe in our vision, that believe in our cause, that believe in our journalism, and could help us expand this out, because that's the goal. So, statuscoup.com/join, become a member. Even if it's $5 a month, that makes a difference. Every member counts. We are 18 members away from 300. 18 members away from 300 members, and that goes with our 325 patrons. So combined, we already have over 600 combined, but we're really trying to focus growing through our website, not Patreon. So if you're a patron, you could stay a patron, no problem. But if you're not anything, we want you to become a member through our website. Patreon takes a higher percentage, and frankly, we don't like the fact that they're now kicking people off, even people we don't agree with. That's a slippery slope, which we don't agree with. So, you could also follow Status Coup at Status Coup. I'm at Jordan Sheridan. Subscribe to our podcast right there, bit.ly/Status Coup podcast. Rate us 5 stars. Leave a review. That's how we'll move up in iTunes. And if you haven't joined our email list, what are you doing? Statuscoup.com. You'll see a box for your email. Enter your email. That's another big, big component of us growing as a media company. So, Joe Biden. The media's 5-star Joe Biden. Well, he's definitely even, he's either leading us all on or he's running for president. And it seems like Joe Biden kind of understands that he might be out of step with the rest of the progressive movement, the growing progressive populist outrage in the country. So Joe Biden, who's been twiddling his thumbs, should I run, should I not run, probably knows he wants to run and is just trying to collect all the money from the bankers, fossil fuel execs, big pharma execs, while he goes out there pretending to be Uncle Joe and middle class Joe. Well, apparently, Joe Biden, he's thinking, I gotta do some grand gesture of identity politics. Here we go. And I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I don't really care. Close advisors to former Vice President Joe Biden are debating the idea of packaging his presidential campaign announcement with a pledge to choose Stacey Abrams as his vice president. Why it matters. The popular Georgia Democrat, who at age 45 is 31 years younger than Biden, would bring diversity and excitement to the ticket, showing voters, in the words of a close source, that Biden isn't just another old white guy. But the decision poses considerable risk, and some advisors are flatly opposed. Some have pointed out that in a Democratic debate, he could be asked why no one on the stage would be a worthy running mate. I don't know why that's such a big thing. Advisors also know that the move would be perceived as a gimmick. Yes, Biden's position on the issue couldn't be learned. We were just told about the advisors' debate. Biden has discussed selecting a running mate earlier, a move that one senior Democrat said could hurt him by feeding an air of inevitability. Biden's office declined to comment. He did meet with Stacey Abrams in Washington last week to discuss her next political steps. So that's from Axios, and then you have the New York Times reporting Mr. Biden and his top advisors are considering nodding to the rising next generation in Democratic politics and elevating an heir by announcing a running mate early, well before the nomination is sealed. Also under consideration is a possible pledge to serve only one term and framing Mr. Biden's 2020 campaign as a one-time rescue mission for a beleaguered country. Oh my God. Yeah, because if the Titanic's sinking, let me tell you who I want to save me. Joseph Biden. I don't even know where to start with this. So let me put as a caveat the same thing I would say about Beto O'Rourke. I was for Beto O'Rourke beating Ted Cruz because I would pick anybody, really, within reason, over Ted Cruz. And for the state of Texas, I think Beto was better than Ted Cruz. I don't think Beto O'Rourke is better than my left sock to be the president of the United States. And we're going to get to Mr. O'Rourke later. But I'm not going to be standing on a bar to report on Mr. Beto O'Rourke. So if you want me to stand on a bar for you, I'm not going to do it. I know that's his thing. So I thought Stacey Abrams ran a brilliant campaign in Georgia. I don't think she actually lost. I think she won. I think it was stolen from her, and the media helped normalize that because Brian Kemp, who's now the governor of Georgia, purged hundreds of thousands of people incorrectly and falsely and did a whole lot of other terrible things to basically suppress the vote. And it was a mix of voter suppression, election fraud combined. So I thought she would have been a great governor and made history down in Georgia. I don't think she's a capital P progressive. If you look a little closer to her record, there's some troublesome things, but would I want her as the governor of Georgia over Brian Kemp? Absolutely. But let's call this what it is, folks. And some people might not like it. Some people might say, Jordan, you shouldn't talk this way. She'd be the first African-American, she'd be the first woman vice president, and also add in a female vice president. But it's really less about Stacey Abrams and more about what Joe Biden is doing. Because Joe he's not a dummy. The people around him aren't a dummy. And they know he's got a long, horrible record when it comes to civil rights, African Americans, mass incarceration, criminal justice. So he's not trying to reel in Stacey Abrams because she's the new shining younger star of the campaign of the Democratic Party. She's the new shining star that happens to be a black woman. He's looking for a protective shield to come over him to avoid criticism on him drafting the crime bill, to avoid his criticism and having to respond to his positions on busing in the 1970s, which he was against black children being bused into white schools. He is concerned about his record on the bankruptcy bill, which disproportionately helped lenders and hurt average people borrowing money, including black people. He is trying to avoid his supporting everything from welfare reform, which disproportionately harmed single mothers, a lot of them minority. He's trying to put a protective black shield around him. I mean, it might not be PC to say it, but that's what he's doing. That's why he wants, if he's going to pick a Stacey Abrams right out of the gate, that's what he's doing. And if I'm called racist for saying so, so be it. That's the truth, right? So that's what he's doing. So then there's the Stacey Abrams part of this. Because honestly, this would be the ultimate identity politics play. I mean, you can't really get more identity politics than what Joe Biden is doing. And when you have Joe Biden, with which the media would brand him, they would really feed into this. Oh, he's coming to save the day, and he is grooming the next, the younger generation, and possibly the first, not only female president, but it would be the first female black president. And I don't really strongly feel viscerally against Stacey Abrams. Like, she's not Hillary Clinton, politically, but she's not a capital P progressive either. I thought her response to the State of the Union was like nice, and there was some nice themes, but it was kind of empty on specifics. I don't think she's for Medicare for all. Could be wrong. I don't know if she's for a Green New Deal. I don't know a lot of things. And, there are stories out there. I mean, just this one from The Intercept. Georgia Democratic governor candidate voted with GOP to make it harder to hold banks executives accountable. So this was from a year ago. The increasingly bitter Democratic primary for Georgia's closely watched gubernatorial election this year features two former state legislators, Stacey Abrams and Stacey Evans, each of whom has touted her bona fides as the most progressive, most democratic, and most viable candidate. While much of the national attention on the race has focused largely on stylistic differences, a little-noticed vote last year serves as yet another policy break on an issue that has sharply divided the Democratic Party in primaries around this country: the role of the banking sector and the subprime lending crisis. In a vote last year over a bill called HB 192, which changed the liability standard for bank executives, Abrams sided with Georgia Republicans and the banking lobby, while Evans led the opposition. Georgia has a particularly ugly history with predatory lending. The state was one of the hardest hit areas of the foreclosure crisis, with a record-breaking number of banks that failed in part because they targeted subprime contractors with deceptive promises and hidden fees. Some of the most abusive lending practices were pioneered in the metro Atlanta area, where banks targeted vulnerable longtime homeowners and lured them into refinance loans that ballooned in cost, prompting a crushing wave of foreclosures. Many of those targeted were elderly African Americans who were cash poor but owned prized homes in quickly gentrifying neighborhoods. So, I mean, this is just from The Intercept, but this is one example. If I look hard enough, I could probably find more moderate to right-wing things in Stacey Abrams' column. But with the media branding, I'm not against, it would be wonderful to have a black female vice president, I don't care. But I'm not going to treat Stacey Abrams differently as far as political analysis or reporting because she's black or a woman. I mean, that's, to me, not the standard that journalists should be going on. I'm a white guy saying this, so you could argue, well, that's easy for you to say, Jordan. Yeah, she might not be perfect, but we need to break these glass ceilings and have a woman vice president, especially a black woman vice president, even if she's not perfect. My problem wouldn't be her as vice president. My problem would be Joe Biden as president. And I think this is a not so subtle way, if this comes to fruition, of him trying to cloak himself over. And because, I mean, what better way to say, oh, no, I'm not racist. Oh, that mass incarceration thing, that was overblown. Oh, you want to talk to Stacey, my black female vice presidential candidate? I mean, you could say I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. It's not to say Stacey Abrams isn't qualified to be a vice presidential nominee, or she wouldn't make a decent vice president. Those are two different things. I think she is qualified. What I am saying is it's kind of obvious why Joe Biden is thinking this way and his advisors are thinking this way. I actually think it would be a politically disastrous thing for him to do, because I think it would look like basically like a ploy. I also think the one-term pledge, I got a bridge to sell you if you think Joe Biden, 3.5 years into his first term, doesn't have a sudden change of heart and say that, the job's not done, the country needs us, the Trumpism of the right, we can't risk them taking back the White House. So for the country, with your permission, Democratic establishment base, I am going to run for president again. There's no chance he would honor that pledge, unless his health wasn't good, because he is 70. He's a year younger than Bernie, so I believe he's 76. So I don't know, folks. I don't think this is. I don't think this is a great thing. I don't think this is a great thing. And Joe Biden and Stacey Abrams have things in common. I mean, I just showed you what Stacey Abrams did as far as voting with Republicans on to basically embolden predatory lenders. Joe Biden did that on a more national scale by pushing the bankruptcy bill. If you know the history, Elizabeth Warren, when she was a Capital P progressive, I have no idea what's going on with her now. That's a whole different subject. Now she's moonwalking away from Medicare for all, which to me is it's not particularly shocking, considering she's been MIA on a lot of other progressive things, but it doesn't make any sense. Politically speaking, it doesn't make sense. She on the surface, she's not doing it for the donors because she says she's not going to take big dollar money. We'll be able to see if that's true, because the Federal Election Commission's quarterly reports will be out at the end of March, so we'll be able to see who the candidates are taking money from for the first 3 months of the year. But, Medicare for All is polling at 70% and is polling at 52% among Republicans. So I don't get, during her CNN town hall, I didn't see the whole thing because I was on the road covering Amazon's destruction of Seattle. But she started hemming and hawing like Kamala Harris. Well, I'm for 3, 5, 7 different versions. And then, we got to start on common ground. No, you got to start with one plan, and that's Medicare for All. That's the plan. These other plans do not get us to the promised land. These other plans are branding that makes it seem like we're doing what needs to be done while not totally burning down private insurance. And you need to burn down private insurance to make Medicare for All work. There could still be private insurance options like there are in Europe, but private insurance cannot be a predominant industry for a government system to thrive. And Elizabeth Warren should know that. Back to Biden. There's another component here that I think Biden is playing on. Biden knows that, the corporate media, CNN, the New York Times, whatever, they'll poke a little bit at his record. They're not going to poke a lot. They'll poke a little bit. But they will be much more hands-off if Stacey Abrams is his vice president, because Stacey Abrams is another corporate media, I wouldn't say creation, but darling. The corporate media basically helps the Democratic Party push their narratives. So the Democratic Party's narrative is Stacey Abrams is the future and this and that. I don't agree with that. I think she would be the future if she's for the right policies, right? I don't think she's the capital P progressive. But the Democratic Party has long been pushing, demographics is destiny, and it's really about we need our leaders to look like us, look like the country. I'm for that, but I don't give a shit what you look like. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what any of that stuff is, if underneath it all is a centrist to right-wing Democrat. Don't care. So I think Joe Biden and his advisors know not only among the electorate will he be shielded, but among the media he will be shielded if Stacey Abrams is his pick. So, listen, it's speculation right now. I would find it, I think there's a better chance that he pledges right out of the gate one term and kind of brands himself as a rescue helicopter, to save the country from Trump. One term, this is an emergency. This isn't for 2 terms. This is 1 term Joe, Uncle Joe, middle class Joe. And maybe later on he would pick someone like Abrams. I think that's highly likely. So, See what happens. We'll follow up. I'm not going to do the horse race. When will he announce this and that? I think it's pretty clear he's running. And I think Joe Biden entering, honestly, is a good thing for Bernie Sanders. Because I think right now, you see Joe Biden atop most of these polls. There's a reason for that. If you remember, Hillary Clinton, after the time she was Secretary of State, before she ran again, ran the second time, she had extremely high favorability ratings. You have goodwill with the people when you're not in the public eye and you're not being challenged anymore, and you're not having activists challenge you or reporters challenge you or really having to explain anything. His numbers will come down, and as his numbers go up, there's two options. As Biden's numbers go down, there's two options. Either Bernie goes up significantly, or Bernie kind of treads and Beto or Kamala go up significantly. I think it's more likely Bernie moves up, because I think Bernie strategically is doing the right things. He's been in South Carolina recently. He's now going to California this weekend. California is now one of the 5 early states. So you got Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, and California. So Bernie's already been to Nevada. He's already been to South Carolina. He's going to California this weekend. He's already been to Iowa. He's already been to New Hampshire. And I think he's going to really do that round robin several times before we even get into like debate season. So the more Bernie Sanders is on the ground, I'm not as focused on the national polls. I'm focused on the state-by-state polls. Because if Bernie Sanders wins 3 out of those first 5 states, in my opinion, he's almost a lock. You win Iowa, you win New Hampshire, and one of California, South Carolina, and Nevada, and California, that you are the front runner. And it would take you getting clobbered in a lot of other states to lose that momentum. And I think he would have even more momentum if he won 3 out of the first 5 states. I think Beto O'Rourke, which I'm going to get to later, is a real media creation. I think it's honestly worse than Obama in 2007 and 2008. This is essentially a Republican who voted with Republicans, who was funded by Republicans from his early days getting into Congress, and now is standing on bars and waving around his hands as the everyman. And he has essentially said, I'll be whatever you want me to be. I'll be whatever you want me to be. So we'll get to him later. Before I move on to the next topic, you need to smash that like button. Smash it into smithereens. I wish I could talk to you live, but this is not live, so I depend on you to keep it coming on the like button. However many of you are watching right now, we need to get to that number as far as liking. So even if you dislike me, press the like button. And to give you an update, we passed $50,000. $50,000 we passed recently, and we passed 1,000 donors. That's amazing. 6 months for us to pass $50,000 from 1,000 of you. I can't thank you enough. I'm not going to lie to you. If you notice something, we did raise it $5,000 to $75,000 just to give us a kind of nice little odd number there. So we got $25,000 to go. That's it. We're not going beyond 75, but figured why stop at 70 if we're close, that close to 75. So my plea to you: look at our reporting in Seattle. Look at our reporting recently in Detroit and Cleveland. We have our documentary on Flint being released next month for the 5-year anniversary. I also have something in the works now for another story we're going to be traveling for. We have things in the works behind the scenes. We're actively working to get the funding we need to cover this campaign. I know a lot of you have donated and donated again and donated again. Some of you have donated 10 to 20 times, and I thank you. So if you're tapped out, you're tapped out. We totally get it. If you're tapped out, send it to your friends, send it to your family, send it to your mailman. Tell them what Status Quo's about. Show them some of our videos. Be our ambassadors, because every donation helps. Every donation, whether it's $5, $10, $20, $100. Remember, $100 will get you a Status Quo hat or shirt. Let me find that. Yeah, $100 gets you a Status Quo hat or shirt. $127 gets you both, and higher amounts will get you some of these goodies: backpack, swag bag, and other things. And also going to talk to Jen maybe about getting some Status Quo mugs. I know mugs are popular in society these days. So, GoFundMe, Status Quo. This is also a super chat, so whichever you prefer. Super chat takes 30%. So in addition to YouTube banning us for 90 days for nothing, they also take 30% of our super chat donations. So GoFundMe link will be in the live chat throughout this broadcast. 1 second. Sorry, not to name drop. Got to text Marianne Williamson back, who I'm doing an interview with. Oh, my bad. Would 5:30 work? Interviewing her, presidential candidate Marianne Williamson. So just scheduling it. So sorry, got to do that while I'm recording. But so moving on. You know, I wish I could break a story to you about CNN, but I can't, because this is the least surprising thing I've seen in a while. But it's also like stunning. It's actually stunning to me that an actual like news organization would do a poll this way. Essentially, for the only reason they're doing a poll this way is to make Bernie Sanders seem like he's falling off a cliff in popularity, despite the fact that the poll actually doesn't say that, and the poll barely polls anyone under 50 years old. So, gee, is a Bernie Sanders going to do better or worse in a poll that barely surveys people under 50 years old? So, in CNN's original story, headline, poll shows Bernie Sanders' popularity among all voters is plummeting. All voters is plummeting. Okay, well, that sounds pretty bad, right? Let's see what they have to say here. One of the arguments Bernie Sanders fans like he's a musician, made during the 2016 Democratic primary was that he was more electable than Hillary Clinton. His favorable ratings with the general electorate were far higher than Hillary Clinton's, indeed. Sanders maintained fairly high favorable ratings with all voters as late as 2018. Sanders' popularity among all voters seems to be declining considerably in the last few months, however. Our new CNN poll puts Sanders' favorable rating at 46% compared to an unfavorable rating of 45% among registered voters. This is only the latest poll to have Sanders at basically even in his net favorability rating. A Quinnipiac University poll from late December gave the Vermont senator a net favorability of just plus 2 points. An average of all recent polls puts Sanders' net favorability at about minus 1 points. Compare that to where Sanders was at the end of his 2016 presidential bid. Sanders had a 59% favorable rating to 36% unfavorable rating among all voters in a CNN poll taken in June 2016. So, let's see. So then they get into that the Biden effect is taking away voters from you. So, I don't know. If I'm just reading the story, that sounds pretty bad. But I actually read the poll, which they didn't even link to. They didn't even link to it in the original story. So let's go through this. Sorry, I have to do this for you. Now, page 10, if you'll follow with me. Page 10. So, here we go. As you see, this poll has Biden at 28% and Bernie at 20%. The poll taken between March 14th and March 17th. They surveyed over 1,000 people. 456 of those people were Democrats / Democratic leaning independents. So, this among Democrats and Democrat leaning independents, which were less than half of the people you polled. So that means over half of the people they polled were Republicans or, independents leaning Republican. So really, out of the whole poll, you only have half as Democrats or Democratic leaning independents. Okay. So Biden at 20%, 28%, Sanders at 20%. Well, wait a minute. December 6th through the 9th, a couple months ago, Biden was at 30%. Bernie was at 14%. I don't know. Can you do math? Is 28 less than or higher than 30? So here you have Joe Biden fell from December to now. Bernie Sanders went up 6 points. He went up 6 points from December to now. In fairness, Kamala Harris went up the most. She went up 4 percentage points to 12 percentage points. And Beto, I'll be whatever you want me to be, who twists himself inside a pretzel to seem like an everyman, he went up 2 percentage points. Elizabeth Warren went up 3 percentage points. I don't even know why John Kerry's on this, but you get the point. So right here, this poll shows Bernie Sanders went up from December to March. Joe Biden went down. Yet the CNN story says polls show Bernie Sanders' popularity among all voters is plummeting. Well, I don't understand that. All voters plummeting. I'm literally looking at the poll. Am I looking at a different poll, folks? Is up 6 percentage points plummeting? This is among Democrats. This is among Democrats and Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents. Here's the question. After I read all the names, please tell me which of the candidates you would be most likely to support for the Democratic nomination. This is asked to 456 Democrats or independents that lean Democratic. So, bullshit to CNN. Then you have respondents who are Democrats, Democratic-leaning independents, who would be your second choice. Well, Bernie Sanders at 17%, Joe Biden at 14%. So Bernie Sanders is higher among people's second choice. That was not really discussed in the CNN story. Then you have, when we go page 13, this was CNN's big takeaway. Big takeaway here. So, page 13. Better chance with, do you think Democrats have a better chance of winning the presidency in 2020 if Bernie Sanders is the party's nominee, or do they have a better chance of winning with someone else as the party's nominee? 35% said better chance with Bernie Sanders. 56% said better chance with someone else. In contrast, 51% said Joe Biden. 36% said better chance with someone else. Wow, that doesn't look very good. That does not look very good for Bernie Sanders. And boy, did CNN make sure it showed you that it wasn't good for Bernie Sanders. This was their big thing. With Bernie Sanders, 33%. Without Bernie Sanders, 56%. So then one has to wonder, what were the age breakdowns of this poll from CNN? Was it a lot of young people that suddenly fell out of favor with Bernard Sanders? Was it, was it mostly old people? What was it? So here's their methodology. Here you go. I'm going to highlight this part. Crosstabs on the following pages only include results for subgroups with a minimum of 125 unweighted cases. While interviews were conducted among a representative sample of the adult population of the United States, results for subgroups with fewer than 125 unweighted cases are not displayed and instead are denoted with NA because they are too small to be projectable to their true values in the population. Okay, so which groups were NA? Which groups were too small that we couldn't even really include them or statistically analyze them? Do you have a guess which groups here they underpolled? Which demographic they under-examined? Here you go. Respondents who are, we'd like to get your overall opinion of some people in the news. As I read each name, please say if you have a favorable or an unfavorable opinion of these people, or if you have never heard of them. How about Bernie Sanders? Here you go, folks. Age 18 to 34. NA. 35 to 49. NA. Oh, they polled 50 to 64. They polled 65 and up. But they didn't poll enough millennials, or 35 to 49 is above millennial, but still Bernie Sanders did particularly well. 40 and under, really well, 18 to 34. So wait a minute. If you didn't poll or survey enough millennials or 35 to 49, wouldn't one assume that part of your survey into who would have a better shot, Bernie or Biden? Maybe part of the reason that Biden was so high is you overpolled and oversurveyed older people and undersurveyed younger people, which is a common practice I have found in CNN's polls. But when Jen reached out in a different CNN poll to CNN to ask them, how many millennials are you polling? They didn't get back. Shocker. This is honestly like a Fox News type false framing, selectively edited, whatever you want to call it. They deliberately are not surveying one of Bernie Sanders' strongest voting blocks and growing voting blocks, because every 4 years, millions of more 18-year-olds. That includes black 18-year-olds, Latino 18-year-olds, indigenous 18-year-olds, LGBT 18-year-olds, and they feel some burn. Well, not feel some burn, feel the burn. Don't want to... that came out wrong. But you get what I'm saying? So it's CNN lied. I mean, CNN, they're deliberately lying to their audience, and they're deliberately trying to make a framing that Bernie Sanders is falling off a cliff and that he's lost his mojo since 2016. And, you know, the more people hear from him, the more he goes, he's losing popularity. Now, his approval rating versus disapproval rating becoming more even, where it's 46% approve, 46% approve, 45% disapprove. That's not unnormal. That's not abnormal when somebody enters a political race and start campaigning, particularly when other candidates are in the race. So they're making it seem like, oh man, he's now like kind of even and not as many people like Bernie Sanders. That's not the case. That's not true. The problem is CNN has a built-in, and we know this, CNN has a built-in bias for the establishment, for the status quo. They don't care. Honestly, I think CNN would prefer Donald Trump win a re-election because they'd take it home to the bank for another 4 years. Or if Trump then tries to change election law and term limits to be president forever, God forbid. But CNN is going to fight nonstop. They're going to kick and scream to make sure that they push a narrative that Bernie is fading, and they'll prop up whoever they have to. First, they were propping up Kamala Harris. Now they're giving... You think Trump got a lot of free coverage? I mean, you can't watch CNN anymore without this nonstop coverage of Beto O'Rourke, who did absolutely nothing as a congressman other than vote with Donald Trump 30% of the time, push deregulation, vote for things that fossil fuel companies love, and now he's waving around his hands like the everyman. He literally just told a group of people that he won't sign the no fossil fuel pledge, which I'm about to show you later. So CNN, who are they propping up? Kamala Harris, who, as I reported, just held a fundraiser last night with a mega funder that literally co-founded a company that did business with 1MDB, the Malaysia fund that is at the center of a global money laundering scandal. When I asked that individual, Shomik Duda, hey, are you under investigation? Did the DOJ ever reach out to you? I politely declined to comment. I don't know if I'm not under investigation, if I haven't been approached, I would certainly let a reporter know that. But Kamala Harris's campaign did not respond to me. They probably used the calculus. Oh, who's this guy? Status who? Whatever. It won't get any pickup. And in this case, they were right. We broke it. Nobody reported on it because the corporate media is corrupt. CNN's reporter, Maeve Reston, who's literally assigned to covering Kamala Harris, she said, oh, I'll pass it along to the reporter covering that fundraiser. And yes, she passed it along into the air. The political reporter that's assigned to Kamala Harris, he responded, thanks for sending. Didn't do anything. Why? They're not going to cover Kamala Harris critically because they're traveling with her and they're dying for the access. They don't want to upset their masters, her campaign aides. They want to get interviews with her and access to her and little news they could break fed to them from the campaign. This is public relations. That's what these reporters are. They're public relations. But as Status Quo gets bigger, as we grow, we're going to break big stories and we're going to make people pay attention to them because more people are going to get woken up to the stories we break. Part of that is you. Statusquo.com/join. Statusquo.com/join for $5 to $10 a month, or at higher levels you get a little bit more bonus content. Is that what is real independent journalism worth that much to you? I hope so. If you've been on the fence, I hope you'll consider joining. I'm also going to show you some of my reporting from Seattle towards the end of this non-stream. I'm starting to call it a non-stream because not a live stream, but it's still a stream. So, yeah, I think CNN honestly is lying to its audience, and there's no penalty for it. Literally a day after CNN put this out, this bullshit poll that doesn't actually show Bernie Sanders is falling, doesn't show him falling off a cliff at all. Emerson came out with a poll that shows Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden tied at 26%. So Bernie Sanders is falling off a cliff across all age demographics, against all voting groups, even though I just showed you that their own poll, CNN's own poll, doesn't show that. But Emerson's poll, Emerson is a pretty good polling institution. Emerson's poll, they're even. Is CNN talking to aliens while Emerson is talking to real people? And whatever, if a poll was legitimately bad for Bernie Sanders, I would tell you. We have to deal with reality, but you can't actually present polls where you're oversampling older Americans and undersampling younger Americans and put that forth as an accurate representation of Bernie Sanders' approval, popularity, or people's view on his electability versus Trump. Now, Bernie Sanders has a lot of older people supporting him. So it's not just millennials, but obviously millennials and even 35 to 45 is a big voting bloc for him. So it's disingenuous. CNN should have put that forward, that they undersampled younger people. So this poll in general might not be the best representation. And start polling millennials. But maybe millennials don't want to talk to CNN. That could be part of it too. Maybe they can't find enough millennials to take their poll, because Millennium knows that CNN is the Clinton news network still. Onward. And remember, smash that like button. Smash it into smithereens. We need to match how many people are watching live to likes. So the more people that like, the more people that will see this non-stream. This is a super chat. You got GoFundMe going. Keep us going. Keep us going at Status Coup. We're not telling you what we're going to do. We've shown you what we're doing. We've been out with this GoFundMe to Flint several times. We've been to Detroit. We've been to Cleveland. We've been to Chicago. We've been to Dallas. We just got back from Seattle and Vancouver. We are reporting on the stories that no one else is reporting on. So every amount counts. I would love by the end of March to get that number closer to $55,000. So right now, March 21st, we just hit over 50,000. Let's get us going, try to get to 55,000. And again, if you've already donated and you can't, we totally get it. Please share it. I know it's hard to keep urgency going, but I also think it's also really gratifying. This GoFundMe money is from you. We haven't had like a big celebrity give us money. We don't take money from douchey plutocrats. This is all majority small dollar donations. The biggest donation we got was one anonymous viewer for $5,000. That's the biggest one we've had, and I will continue to thank that person. I've thanked him many times privately. So, Beto O'Rourke. And I got to tell you something. It takes a lot to really tick me off. I mean, I have just a baseline agitation at establishment phonies, but when someone is so blatant. See, the ambulance is coming for Beto O'Rourke. It's so blatant. Beto O'Rourke. And smash the like button. We need more people to like this stream so more people see it. Beto O'Rourke is putting on a political Houdini act. He is reinventing who he is pretty much on a daily basis. He is actively lying about who he is. And the media is standing by, letting it go. I actually just interviewed, it's up on the channel, a senior in college who is more of a journalist, asking Beto O'Rourke a question when Beto O'Rourke went to Penn State University. She was tougher and more of a journalist than any journalist on NBC, MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, you name it. She said, "Hello, Mom, I'm live. Can I call you back?" Yep. So, Beto O'Rourke is going around the country, I don't care what religion you are, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you believe, I don't care what your ideology, I'll be whatever you want me to be. And he certainly will, because he will say whatever he has to, and he will be whatever he has to. And that kind of reminds me of somebody named Barack Obama. So, this isn't getting any attention, but apparently activists at his rally in New Hampshire asked him, what Will you sign the no fossil fuel pledge? This was 2 nights ago. Let's see.
I would sign it, but I'll give you my card and we'll take a trip. I would sign it, but I'll give you my card and we'll take a trip.
So, right there, he says no. Beto O'Rourke refuses to sign the no fossil fuel pledge. Well, that kind of makes sense since he violated the no fossil fuel pledge while running for Texas senator. That story was broken, I believe, by Sludge, where he was taking money from big oil executives and fossil fuel executives. So why is it that Mr. O'Rourke won't sign the no fossil fuel pledge? Might have something to do with the fact that he is expecting to bundle a lot of money. You know, campaign bundling is when high dollar donors are able to raise a lot of money for you as well as donating a lot of money for you. So what's interesting here is Beto O'Rourke recently came out saying he made $6.1 million in 24 hours. And of that 6.1, he wouldn't say, you know, how many people donated, what was the average dollar donation, like Bernie Sanders, $27. Bernie Sanders had 223,000 unique donors. So now Beto O'Rourke comes out saying, we had 128,000 unique contributions, not donors, unique contributions at $47 a pop. So first of all, that is just under 100,000 less than Bernie Sanders, but that's also not unique donors, which I incorrectly said during my interview with that Penn State senior. So I correct that. It's 128,000 unique contributions. So basically, he could have had one rich person donate several times to reach the max donation limit, which I believe is $2,800. So we don't know how many people, unique individuals, separate human beings, donated in that first 24 hours to Beto O'Rourke. It could have been some people repeatedly donating, and frankly, $47 a pop, it's not mega millions, you know, it's still technically, you could say, that's relatively small dollar donations, but it's a considerable, it's $20 higher on average than Bernie Sanders, which would show you more people sent higher dollar amounts and more people maxed out at $2,800, which would show you this was not as grassroots as Beto O'Rourke and then the media, who's just regurgitating whatever he says, wanted you to believe. So that might be why he didn't want to release that information. But it was this college student that I interviewed who put out there, let me get the clip for you so you have it. Her name is Leslie Johnson. And let's see what Leslie had to say to Mr. O'Rourke at Penn State University. This was honestly better than anything I've seen.
Broke all records, which I guess is pretty good. But my concern is how much of that is coming from a process which is called bundling. For those of you who don't know, bundling is a process in which political activists and people in the private sector and lobbyists go to wealthy multimillionaires and billionaires and basically tell them to give the maximum, which is normally anywhere from $2,700 to $5,600, and basically use it to sort of overinflate a campaigner's, you know, their first day totals. For example, just 1,000 people giving the maximum $5,600, that's $5.6 million right off the bat. Your campaign has not released the number of individual donors you have, nor has it released the average donation. Now, I'm not accusing you of that, but the fact that your campaign is currently working with notorious mega bundler Louis Sussman gives me a bit of a clue. In addition, when we look on your website, we don't really see anything in terms of a solid platform for policies. It's mostly just platitudes and a merch store. So I guess two-pronged question. One, are you going to...
So please allow her to ask the question.
Yeah. So two-pronged question, I guess. One, are you going to release the number of individual donors and their average donor donation? Because I know your campaign has that data. If it didn't, it would mean you'd be running a very incompetent campaign, and I don't think you are. You seem like you have your stuff together mostly. And two, when are we going to get an actual policy from you instead of just like platitudes and nice stories?
Yeah. Thank you. So the answer to your thanks everybody. So the answer to your first question is yes. In addition to how much we raised, the fact that we raised it from all 50 states, the fact that we took not a dime from a single PAC or lobbyist, we will release the average and the number of donors. To your second question.
When?
To your second question about policy. I'm going to try to be as specific as I can. I mentioned our criminal justice system. I've called for the end of the prohibition on marijuana and the expungement of the arrest records of everyone who's been arrested for marijuana. I've been doing that for a long time. On the question of healthcare, you talked about universal guaranteed high-quality healthcare. You asked the path to get there. Two extraordinary women with whom I served in Congress, Jan Schakowsky of Illinois, Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut, have introduced a proposal called Medicare for America that ensures that if you have employer-based insurance and you like it, you keep it. Your doctors, your network, what works for you right now. If you don't have insurance or you don't like the insurance you already have, you enroll in Medicare. Costs a lot of money. It will be measured in the trillions of dollars. It is not inexpensive. As I made the point in the case earlier, it's a lot less expensive than taking care of people at end of life who've never been treated in the first place. When it comes to public school education, paying teachers a living wage and starting public education not in kindergarten at 5 years old, but in pre-K at 4 years old, universally for every student I was asked about the Green New Deal. I answered the question about the...
Okay, so first of all, what a sad commentary on America that a 21-year-old Penn State senior, who is brilliant, by the way, Leslie Johnson. Go check out my interview with her after the clip we spoke. What a sad commentary that she, a 21-year-old, is more well-read, is more brave, has more integrity, and knows more than any journalist I've seen in the field covering Beto O'Rourke. This is a question that you would expect from an actual journalist to know who is bundling for Beto O'Rourke, what his positions are and are not, what bundling is, when he's going to give us any policy. I mean, bravo to her, but it's also a sad commentary because that's what's missing. That's actually why Status Quo exists. I would love to have the funding right now to follow Mr. O'Rourke around and get in his face journalistically. We preach love because, trust me, you think I got some questions for Donna Brazil? Wait until I get Beto O'Rourke. So, first of all, his answers were ridiculous too. Okay, you're for ending criminalization of marijuana, great. Your answer on Medicare, this is a mangled thing. Why? I wish she didn't have time, but like, how about a follow up? Well, why 6 months ago were you for Medicare for all, but now you're not? What changed? Why was Medicare for all the gold standard for you when you were running for the Senate and trying to convince your primary challenger, Sema Hernandez, to endorse you? Because according to Sema Hernandez, his primary opponent in the Texas Democratic primary for Senate, Beto O'Rourke said, if you endorse me and trying to get her voters, I'll be for Medicare for all as a senator. So now all of a sudden you're running for president, but it's too expensive? Yeah, no. That's called, that's like a mix of a Mitt Romney meets Hillary Clinton, day at the beach with flip-flops. That's some flip-floppery. So, yeah, his other answers, I don't want to hear about climate change because Beto O'Rourke voted to let oil companies drill offshore. He voted to lift the cap on foreign oil exports. He's voted for a lot of terrible things, and he's not for a Green New Deal. He said, I'm for a Green New Deal, whatever that means. And he won't sign the no fossil fuel pledge, so I think we know where he stands. And that student, Leslie Johnson, brought up this bundler who is a heavy donor to and bundler formerly for President Obama. So, one of former U.S. Rep. Beto O'Rourke's supporters from his 2018 Senate campaign has been reaching out to top Democratic Party donors to see if they will back him to run for president in 2020. Louis Sussman, former U.S. ambassador to the UK and a lead bundler for Barack Obama's first presidential campaign, has been speaking with political financiers from around the country, including those in the financial industry, to see if they will invest in O'Rourke's campaign, according to people with direct knowledge of the outreach. Talk about grassroots. The former Obama backer has put together a string of senior party donors who are willing to contribute to the former congressman's presidential operation, said the people, who declined to be named due to the conversations being deemed private. In an interview with CNBC, Sussman says the people he's talked to about donating to the campaign are family and friends. He added everyone is excited to go, while noting he's been in touch with O'Rourke's campaign and coordinating his efforts with them. He declined to say who these donors are or which industries they are from. Quote, "Whatever I do it in coordination with the campaign," Sussman said. He said there's no discussion about him becoming a campaign finance chairman, and he has not recently spoken with O'Rourke himself. He's confident the former Texas Senator will be successful in the fundraising circuit. Quote, "I don't think, whether it's through large bundlers or small donors, that he's going to have a tough time raising money." Well, actually, that's not true, because we actually don't know what was the nature of the money he got in that first day, because he just said 128,000 unique contributions, not donors. So I don't know how many times that guy, Louis Sussman, donated. He could have donated, I don't know, 7 times to reach the max amount. And that's 7 unique contributions. So I'm not saying Beto O'Rourke didn't raise a healthy amount of money. I'm saying I don't know how much of it came from the grassroots versus big bundlers, and I'm pretty sure that's why he didn't automatically release that information. He says, I choose not to, as far as releasing that information to you. I choose not to. Well, maybe because he knew it was coming in large part from those donors discussed in those stories, which would kind of pop that lid on the grassroots campaign, the everyman Beto O'Rourke. No. It's not the thing. And honestly, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be hard to prove that. Beto O'Rourke is selling a whole lot of hot air, and eventually it's going to catch up with him. Because I haven't covered one of his events yet, but from what I see in his speeches, it is a lot of hot air. And it's nice to talk about inclusiveness. It's nice to talk about, I don't care what you believe, your religion, your race, your political ideology, whatever. But you still voted for a $715 billion defense budget. You still voted to offshore drill. You still voted to lift the cap on foreign exports, oil. You still voted to deregulate the banking industry, and you voted with Trump 30% of the time as a congressman. So, come on. And he actually voted, get this, Beto O'Rourke as a councilman, or when he was running for Congress, was against Obamacare. Now, I'm not a champion of Obamacare, but Beto O'Rourke actually was working with the GOP. This is from Common Dreams, you have to read this story. Reinventing Beto, how a GOP accessory became a top Democratic contender for 2020. To understand Beto O'Rourke as a candidate, it's vital to go beneath the surface of his political backstory. News watchers are already well aware of the former Texas congressman's good looks, charisma, youthful energy, and fundraising prowess. But most remain unaware of an inconvenient truth that could undermine the O'Rourke campaign among the people who matter most, the ones who will be voting to choose the Democratic presidential nominee next year. O'Rourke is hardly eager for those upcoming voters to realize that the growth of his political career is rooted in an alliance with powerful Republicans that began 15 years ago, or that he supported raising the minimum age for Social Security in 2012, or that during 6 years in Congress, through the end of 2018, he often aligned himself with Republican position. If facts matter, such weighty facts could sink for the Beto for America presidential campaign. Since his announcement, information gaining traction nationwide runs directly counter to the Beto brand. Before becoming a rising star in the Democratic Party, the Wall Street Journal reported a week ago, Beto O'Rourke relied on a core group of business-minded Republicans in his Texas hometown to launch and sustain his political career. To win their backing, Mr. O'Rourke opposed Obamacare, voted against Nancy Pelosi as the House Democratic leader, well, I don't disagree with that, and called for a raise in the Social Security eligibility age. Meanwhile, a Washington Post news article under the headline Beto O'Rourke's political career drew on donations from the pro-Republican business establishment also foreshadowed a bumpy ride on the campaign trail. In the eyes of most people who don't like the GOP, key points in the Post reporting are apt to be concerning. For instance, several of El Paso's richest business moguls donated to and raised money for O'Rourke's city council campaigns, drawn to his support for a plan to redevelop El Paso's poorest neighborhoods. Some later backed a super PAC that would play a key role in helping him defeat an incumbent Democratic congressman. By the way, folks, don't have anything to announce yet, but I'm beginning the research stages of possibly covering that redevelopment that Beto O'Rourke did. Keyword, he was responsible for pushing poor Latinos out of the barrio area. The barrio is where a lot of these poor Latinos that were from there were pushed out, so Beto O'Rourke could help gentrify that area. That's what is called development these days. I don't have it right now, but there's a crushing video on YouTube of Beto O'Rourke, I believe in 2011, facing these community members who were outraged that they were being pushed out for his real estate development. So maybe I'll cover that more tomorrow. O'Rourke worked on issues that had the potential to make money for some of his benefactors. His support as a council member for the redevelopment plan, which sparked controversy at the time because it involved relocating low-income residents, many of them Hispanic, coincided with property investments by some of his benefactors. You don't say. As a congressman, he supported a $2 billion military funding increase that benefited a company controlled by another major donor. That donor, real estate developer Woody Hunt, was friends with O'Rourke's late father. Hunt also co-founded and funds an El Paso nonprofit organization that has employed O'Rourke's wife since 2016. Wow. Central features of Trumpism are budgets that add billions to already bloated Pentagon spending while cutting essential programs. In Beto's last year in Congress, when nearly one-third of House Democrats opposed the record-breaking 2019 National Defense Authorization Act of $717 billion, Beto voted with Trump. Overall, the Post reports, quote, in contrast to the aspirational image he has fostered in recent years, O'Rourke's political career has gone along a path of, quote, winning support from a typically pro-GOP business establishment interested in swaying public policy. Born into one politically potent family and married into another, he benefited repeatedly from his relationship with El Paso's most powerful residents, including several nationally known Republican moneymen. To put his more conservative actions in context, O'Rourke cannot plausibly claim that he was striving to be in sync with the voters who elected him. El Paso and the House district that he represented are heavily Democratic. Wall Street Journal summed it up this way. In a one-party town, the Democrats have held El Paso's congressional seat for all but one term since 1902. So, we'll put the link to this in the super chat. This guy is a Republican. He's charismatic, he's got nice hair, his arms wave around nice. He's a Republican. And if you want Obama 2.0, this is Obama 2.0, and frankly, could be even worse. Thinking that says we need to raise the Social Security age, thinking that says labor unions are taking too much, which he also said in his early days, thinking that, flip-flopping from Medicare for All to Medicare, whatever he was calling it, that's not real Medicare for All, signing no fossil fuel pledge and then taking it. It's kind of, I'm not calling him Trump, but it's kind of lying without worrying about getting caught. It's lying so much that there's no ramifications for it. It's lying so much that there's no consequences for it because it's already baked into the cake that you're lying. This is what he's done. This changing positions constantly, this trying to present himself as a progressive who's inclusive to all. I mean, it's in today's age with the internet and social media, I mean, he's not going to be able to get away with it for long, even though the corporate media is bending over backwards to help him get away with it. But status quo will not. So as time develops, because I haven't had much time between traveling and now interviewing other people, I'm going to be looking in even further to Mr. O'Rourke's record. And hopefully, once we break those stories, corporate outlets will actually pay attention. But we won't hold our breath. So, remember, smash the like button. I got one more for you today. So, we were just in Seattle because, honestly, when you look at the homelessness epidemic, when you look at the affordable housing crisis, when you look at tech companies basically driving up the cost of living everywhere, and basically the politicians saying, oh, you need more tax cuts, you need more subsidies, you need more deregulation, you need us to fluff your pillow. Seattle is basically the capital of that, because Amazon, and it's not just Amazon, you have Microsoft that's been gotten subsidies from the local government in Seattle, the wider state government in Washington State, which a lot of people think Washington State is progressive. Not economically. They don't have an income tax. They have no income tax. So they're basically, while starving the beast of income tax, they're giving one of its biggest employers, I think Amazon is their biggest employers, essentially carte blanche. Subsidies, tax cuts, deregulation, you name it. And who suffers? Everywhere you went in Seattle. You know, in other cities I've been to, both at the Young Turks and Status Quo, you have different pockets of town. There's in Detroit, you could drive 3 blocks, and 3 blocks you got really nice, wealthy areas, and then 3 blocks later it looks like Baghdad just got bombed. But there's kind of a separation. Seattle, not so much. Seattle, you have homeless encampments sprinkled in to gentrified neighborhoods with new luxury housing condos. This is because the average person that's not a software engineer, the average person that doesn't work in tech, the average person that is working full-time can't afford rent in Seattle, can't afford to buy a house in Seattle. Somebody tweeted me on Twitter that she works full-time and lives in her van. So I want to play you a part of an interview I did with a man just a year older than me. His name is Sense. I don't know if this is his real name, but we'll see. He's homeless, and he's literally living in a homeless encampment right next to luxury gentrified buildings. So, right, his name is Sense, and this encampment, I interviewed him on Saturday. Like so many others, the city of Seattle, instead of trying to help these people, are going in and sweeping them out and evicting them from these homeless tents because they don't want to help the people. They don't want to create investment for the people. They want to just get rid of them so they're rich. The people who work at Amazon and Microsoft and Boeing don't have to be bothered. Here's part of my interview with him. We're at one of the encampments that homeless people are living at. You see some of the tents around here. And what's your name, sir?
Sense.
Sense? Oh, Sense. Yeah. So we were talking. You've been at this location now for about 6 months, you said?
Yeah.
So Monday they're coming to sweep it up. We've been seeing that a lot. So can you kind of talk about what you're dealing with now? Because you've been here for several months, but now it's kind of like, where do you go when the city's coming in trying to sweep people out?
Yeah, it just sucks because like we finally like gathered enough stuff and got enough things to where we've accumulated some nice things. We have like a little home set up, but now we're having to tear it all down. And the biggest hassle is now that I have all this stuff accumulated and I have some nice things, between me and my girlfriend. So where are we going to put it? How are we going to get it from here to another spot without other people stealing it? You know what I mean? Where are we going to set up? Is the spot that we set up going to get, are we going to get told to leave in a half hour's notice like we did at Green Lake, or, a week out from now are they going to come and, sweep us again? And it's just a struggle because we don't know exactly where to go. If we knew where we could go and set up and have some ground rules established, and some criteria to follow, then, we'd like set a standard, then we could, set that goal and, try and maintain a little community there. But it's just a struggle because, it's one thing for us to try and police our own stuff, but when we don't have anywhere for sure, people can say, oh, well, screw you, you don't own this area, you can't tell us how to do, yada, yada, yada. And so it's just a pain.
Do you feel like the city of Seattle or the state are trying to actually help folks like you, or just kind of get rid of homeless people?
Honestly, I feel like they're just trying to corral us in spots where they don't have to see us, or throw us in jail if they can for whatever reason. I think local law enforcement looks for whatever excuses they can to kind of throw us in jail, and to get us out of the way. And the rest of us, they just kind of corral to different spots, where people don't have to deal with them.
Yeah. And
So you've been in a couple other spots too, or this was your first spot in Seattle?
This is the second spot I was at. Initially, I was at Green Lake. I was right on the water, and nobody had hassled us. We kept it really clean and everything. There was like zero garbage. It was just my girlfriend, myself, in our smaller tent. But one day they showed up. Everybody was putting bags out in front of our place. They said, you have a half hour to be out of here, or we're going to basically sick the cops on you. And there was 2 squad cars, and the cops were just kind of sitting at bay waiting for us to not move along quick enough, and then they were going to sick the cops on us.
And kind of talk to me about your story. You're from a half hour away from here?
Yeah, I'm from Yelm. It's a few hours south of here, and they have like zero resources out in Yelm. But Olympia, the capital, is right near there, and you'd be surprised. I mean, for being the capital of the state, there's way more options out here than there is as opposed to Olympia, as far as resources. But I don't know what else you want to say.
And it just seems to me like you drive around these communities and it's all like fancy new housing, yet right next to that fancy new housing and nice neighborhoods is like just endless amounts of basically tent cities where people are homeless. Do you think that's in part because of business has come here and Amazon has come here and all that and driven up prices to the point where people can't live?
I mean, they got 12 freaking Google buildings down on the waterfront, you know what I mean? And you see a couple tents pitched out there even, But, I don't know, it's nuts, because, I mean, you see so much stuff out here, and it's just surprising to me that they don't have something, like they have a couple of little tiny house areas, you know what I mean? I'm surprised they don't have a certain area that, they couldn't tell us that we could stay in and kind of police ourselves or whatever, because there's plenty of room out here, I don't know.
And what's your story? Did you just like fall on hard times a couple of years ago, or how'd you get into this situation?
I was actually in an apartment, and I was asked to leave because I was arrested on the property, and that's my own fault. I could have made different choices, but I made the ones that I made, and it ended me up being homeless again. And there's just nowhere out in Olympia for us to go besides shelters where they won't let us be together in a shelter because we're not married. And so we came out here just because there's a lot more of us out here that are doing the same thing, and it's cool to get a group of people with the same the same things going on, and with that respect the same things and want the same things for each other. It's just, so like wherever we move, we're just going to keep basically my buddies, my girlfriend, and I in a tight little group, and so that we don't have to worry about people, being little bedwetters and leaving all kinds of garbage and needles and stuff out, and, watch our own stuff. And a lot of the problem, I guess, was that the crime rate went up since we've been out here, which is probably true, But yeah, so I'm just hoping that if it's just our own little group and we're not out car prowling and stealing shit and, looking like a bunch of junkies leaving crap all over the place, that hopefully they'll let us stay put wherever I find us, to go next.
And other people you spoke to that are in your situation, other homeless people, are people like willing to work if they could find a place to live? Are they willing to kind of like do things in the community? Because it seems like it's not, for the most part, people unwilling to work or do things. They just can't afford to live anywhere.
Right, yeah, no, a lot of us are willing to work. I myself, there's a gentleman 2 blocks over, and I've done his brakes on his van. I've changed his oil. I tuned up his van and changed all the spark plugs on it for him. My buddy's actually a mechanic too, and like we do odd jobs for people in the neighborhood. If we can find them that are willing to deal with us, So it's not that we don't want to work. One of the factors is I don't want to go out and look for a job and then come back and realize that, hey, in a half hour I had to have all my stuff and be gone again. It's kind of difficult. If you don't know where you can be at night, to go out and go seek work in the morning when you don't know if your spot's going to be available for you to go back to sleep to when you get home.
Yeah, and it's got to be hard, like psychologically, because like you finally feel like you have some stability here. Yeah. And then you find out, and you kind of like make a little home. You were showing me like you got a nice little sky view through the tent, but then like the city's coming to sweep you up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just difficult because like we've tried to keep it clean. We've tried to keep people that are being a nuisance and being rude and like obnoxious to the community out, and it doesn't. I almost feel like it doesn't matter how much we've policed ourselves out here, that they're still wanting us to go anyway. You know what I mean? No matter how good we were or how much we didn't do the things that they don't want going on, that it doesn't matter, that it's just an eyesore and they want us out of here.
Would you have a message? Because obviously, you know, Jeff Bezos and Amazon, there was efforts by the city to put a employer tax where companies like Amazon would have to pay a little bit more, and that money would go towards, in large part, the homeless issue and trying to get people more housing. They fought like hell against that. Amazon, you got a message for Mr. Bezos or Amazon as far as seems to be a real indifference to people like you and your struggle?
Yeah, he's not going to waste any energy on us. I'm not going to waste any energy on him to even say anything, so.
My last question is, can you kind of talk about, you're here with your girlfriend, you said your friend. There's a lot of people, like we were in downtown Seattle last night, and you see people kind of lying in the streets, just passing homeless people, and it's kind of like it's kind of normal here, you know? People just pass, and it's just part of life. What would you want people to know that are kind of just passing you guys in the street and not really thinking much of it? What kind of things do you need from the rest of the community and the country to know about, you know, what you guys are really about and trying to do?
You know, just some understanding that, you know, everybody has different stuff going on in their lives, and, you know, I understand we all made those choices and put ourselves in those situations, but, like, we can all come from those situations. Like, I've been in this situation and worse situations before and gotten back on my feet, and it's just a matter of, first and foremost, myself wanting to make change, but second of all, having any support. You know, support's huge. You know, you make the right moves, if people support you, you want to keep going in that direction, you know.
And lastly, you know, you hear Trump and these people talking about the booming economy in America. The economy's booming. Who the hell is the economy booming for? Because I see a lot of booming for, you know, software developers and computer programs, but working people or just average people seem to be struggling just to afford anywhere to live here.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have no idea. I have no idea.
Not you.
No, not me.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Take care, bro.
So that was, I lied. I told you I'd play you some, but I just figured why not play the whole thing. So, well, I didn't do that on purpose. I just went on the GoFundMe. So if you like that reporting, if you want more of it, I would have loved to, I would have loved to spend at least 2 weeks in Seattle. We could have done so much more there, but that's just the nature of the game right now. You know, we only have X amount of money for X amount of days because we have to balance, you know, paying everybody and monthly costs. We have marketing costs. We have social media costs, tech costs, a lot of costs. So thank you. Keep the GoFundMe coming. But what was so striking to me is this guy who is basically one of the living victims of Jeff Bezos' greed, because Seattle, the city council voted to tax companies like Amazon $250 per employee. It was going to be called the head tax. Jeff Bezos and Amazon, oh my God, they responded like it was tyranny. $250 an employee. It would have, ultimately Amazon would have had to pay, I think, like 1/10 of something that they make. It was pennies to Amazon and Jeff Bezos. And that money was going to go towards people like Sense. More affordable housing in Seattle, more more investment in getting rid of these homeless communities and putting them in housing, more money towards job programs. And Jeff Bezos and Amazon, I don't care if he can't find a place to live. I don't care if he could eat. I don't care if he could sleep. I don't care what he and these people need to live in. Their squalor is their problem. I'm creating jobs. I'm creating wealth. I'm creating, this beautiful city because my jobs that I create, they're creating these skyscrapers and they're helping fund these other small businesses popping up and these bars and restaurants and all that. You know what? Some of that is true. Companies like Amazon do create jobs. But the question is, should we as a country celebrate and jump up for jumping jacks because Amazon and companies like it are creating jobs for six-figured salaries and tech people and computer programs and coders? I ain't knocking you if you're a coder. I'm not knocking you if you're a software engineer. I'm sure you're very skilled. I'm sure you've worked hard to get to where you are. You shouldn't not make the money that you deserve. but a society that protects those people and supports those high earners and creates and pushes cities to develop into nice little pads for those people and discards, like yesterday's trash, everybody else. That's called an oligarchy. That's called an aristocracy. That's called a tale of two countries, meaning the tale of two cities. And that's what Seattle was. And I just scratched the tip of the iceberg, but we had spent the money that we had allotted to spend there. And we were in Canada covering, there's homeless problems in Canada too, to kind of show you that even though Canada and other European countries, we look to them for Medicare, the global income inequality, you go from Seattle to Vancouver, it's not so different as far as the homelessness, the affordable housing crisis. Ty and Jen did interviews on a block in Vancouver, Canada, that literally was like hundreds of homeless people living on this block. And we want to talk about, it's just America screwed up? No, Canada is having economic inequality problems. So is Europe. So it really comes down to, do we as a country, and do we want to keep putting people into government positions that are our public servants that give lip service to, I'm for the people, I'm Kamala Harris, I'm for the people, or I'm Cory Booker, I'm a servant of love, I'm running on love, or I'm Beto O'Rourke, I'll be whatever the hell you need me to be. So that's at the national level, but they all support this economic Hunger Games. They all support this tale of two cities. They don't give a damn, and they're not going to do anything to help those people. And it's not just the homeless people, by the way. A lot of people are struggling with with a roof over their head, but they don't know if they're going to be able to afford to keep it. So the people living paycheck to paycheck, although that's not as much of a crisis as being homeless, they are struggling to live in Seattle. And it ain't just Seattle. You got Portland, you got San Francisco, you got Los Angeles, you got San Jose, you got Chicago, you got Baltimore, you got Philadelphia, you got Cleveland, you got fill in the blank. I could name a gazillion. Detroit now. It's all gentrification. And the media don't cover it, and none of the candidates other than Bernie Sanders. I've heard Bernie Sanders talk about gentrification crisis at his Brooklyn rally. I'm sure he's talking about it at other rallies too. Kamala Harris ain't. Cory Booker isn't. Beto O'Rourke isn't. Joe Biden's not going to. Kirsten Gillibrand? Psh. So status quo exists for those people. We are going to tell their stories. We are going to find a way to tell their stories, and we're going to tell more of those stories. We want to tell you your story, the viewer, because a lot of you have been in that predicament, and a lot of you are worried that you will be in that predicament sooner than later. So I'm begging you. I am not beyond begging the audience. I will always beg the audience. statuscoup.com/join. statuscoup.com/join. Join us. We're 18 members away from 300. Then we'll set our sights on 500 and beyond. The more people that become Status Quo members, the more revenue that comes in. The more revenue that comes in, the more we could report in the field, the longer we could report in the field. The longer we report in the field, the better chance we have to gain larger funding, including sponsorship deals. But I can't do it alone. I don't grow money, and I can't print it myself, unfortunately. I hope you now see there's a lot of news outlets out there, both corporate and independent. Then they talk the talk, and they ask you to pay whatever they ask per month, and they have branding slogans. You know, there's a lot of them, and I'm not going to mention names, but I think you get the drift. What are they really doing? What are they really offering you? I don't see any of those outlets out in Seattle covering the homeless and affordable housing crisis. I don't see them in Detroit covering General Motors laying 15,000 people off. I don't see them in Flint. We're going to release our long anticipated documentary in April to mark the 5-year anniversary of Flint not having clean water. It's been 5 years and they don't have clean water in America. So our documentary will be out towards the end of April, and it's going to be free for members. So if you want to see that documentary for free, statuscoup.com/join. statuscoup.com/join. That will be a perk of being a Status Quo member. Folks, it's as simple as that. Join us. I'll be back tomorrow. Another premiere And we also are coming up on our 1-year anniversary, so we're going to do something special for that coming up at some point this month. Thank you for watching. Remember, statusquo.com/join, GoFundMe Status Quo. Become a member as low as $5 to $10 a month. Jesus, what do I got to do? Tell me what I got to do, I'll do it. To twist your arm, kindly. And lastly, most people are not lacking compassion in this country. Most people have no fucking idea what the hell is going on. Goodbye.